So the very first step to um, figuring out which photos you want to edit and whether you need to take more photos because you want to make sure that they are good, high quality photos that you're editing. So the first step, hopefully you've had things organized in your folder and your goal is to get 5 photos. Those 5 photos, you're going to need 1 rule of thirds, 1 leading line, 1 framing, 1 foreground, and 1 background. And I'm going to go over what should go into making your choice. Okay. Number 1 should be you should make sure that the photo is in focus and not blurry. So that's something that you're definitely not going to be able to fix in editing. So make sure it's not blurry, at least where you don't want it to be blurry. All right. So let's go to rule of thirds first. So remember that rule of thirds, when you're choosing rule of thirds, you are going to be choosing a image that you will be able to break into a grid of 3 divided by in 3 lines, 2 horizontal and 2 vertical, creating 3 grids across the picture. The important thing when you're thinking about doing something with rule of thirds is you will always be able to crop your image to make something have better rule of thirds. So for example, in this photo, my squirrel friend here is directly in the center of my image. I'm going to be editing this so that it's not directly in the center, so that I can have the little fingers probably sitting right at one of those focal points. Okay. This one you can see very clearly that it's divided into threes and it's a good shot. I'm not going to really have to edit the crop it very much. This one I would be editing just the color. This one, there's definitely some rule of thirds going on, but there's not like it's almost too busy. But it might be an interesting one to edit. This one, I've got some, I would probably need to crop off some of this side so that we have more of the focus on, I'm hoping to get one of those cross sections of the rule of thirds right there. Okay, this one also, I can really easily divide it into 3 and you can see that it's split up like that. And my last one has some good rule of thirds because there's something going on down here, there's something going on up here, and there's some leading lines here and here with a little bit of an empty like resting area here. Rule of thirds is really honestly the most important rule of photography. And I really want you to be able to understand it because basically it helps lead your eye throughout the image. If you have something just directly in the center, like this one, your eye doesn't necessarily go throughout the piece. Like if this part isn't that interesting, this part isn't very interesting because your focus is totally on the squirrel. But if you end up cropping it, so probably cropping it more like this, okay? See how that creates a lot more interest suddenly in the entire image when you crop it and you focus on that squirrel, okay? So that's one of the choices that we're going to have to make with rule of thirds. With leading lines, what you're looking for is lines that help lead you back throughout the image. I chose this one because you have this trunk that's kind of leading you back and it kind of splays out. I liked this one because it kind of leads you in, but then it veers away. This one definitely has some leading lines in it, but it doesn't lead you very much of anywhere. So I might not use that as my leading line one. This one definitely invites you into the picture. It's encouraging you to go look out here. It would have even been better if I was standing at like right here at the pier and looking down. But I think that this is going to be my most successful piece. So that's kind of how I'm choosing. I'm thinking, okay, which one has lines that help me, that really direct my eye? Okay. So this one, it only has lines. It doesn't really direct my eye anywhere. It just only has lines. Okay. This one, the lines are there, but they're a little confusing. This one, it's so obvious that the lines are inviting you to look at the rest of the image. So this is the one that I'm going to use. Framing. Framing was a little bit difficult. I looked at the pictures that I had previously. So I had this one that has a tree that frames it a little bit, but it really only frames it on one side. But I liked the way that the branch, I think this one is a little bit better. When you're framing something, you want to make sure that the frame encloses a subject. Okay. And you can also break the frame too. That also creates a level of interest. So like this has a little bit of like a circular form, but it's not really focusing on anything, although this is the brightest spot. So I could have used this photo, but I was honestly not very satisfied with that or this one. This one because there's like nothing closing it off on the top. So I made the decision to go ahead and take some more photos. So here's some of the other photos. I don't know if you guys are, if any of you are nerdy. This is like a portal mirror that I've made. And then there's a little Mario light. So I played around with that because that's definitely a frame and it's an interesting shaped frame. And I broke the frame right here. I would definitely need to crop this because I don't want to have this angle here. It's okay to set up your subject and make it really fun. I also set this one up because I put treats down to try and get Butterscotch to go underneath the chair. But I did notice that because of the lighting coming down, it just doesn't quite look right. It kind of gives weird shadows to his face. So I don't really like the way that I set that one up. I would probably want to have better lighting for this shot, but you can see how it frames him right here, and kind of blocks the whole image off. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. But because I think this one, especially because it actually merges. And if you know the game Portal, that's actually one of the things it does is merging and like all that stuff. So it's kind of a fun thing. I think I like that better than this one. So I don't know. I might like that one. We'll see. So I'm making that decision, but I will have to crop this little corner out here because that's really distracting for my frame. So that's probably the one that I'm going to go with here. All right, for foreground, I have foreground, like a foreground focus is something that stylistically I choose to do almost all the time. I really like having something, it's called aperture, and we'll go over it. But I like to have something in focus in the foreground and then blurry backgrounds because I think it creates a lot of interest. So, you know, there's a lot of images here. Um, I really like this image because the shape of the flowers and the bee kind of mimic the shape in the back of the background, but I might also use that as my background image because I was really being aware of my background there. Whereas I think when we're trying to focus on the foreground, the stuff in the background doesn't really matter. So you want the stuff in the background to not be distracting. So if you look at this flower, all of the background is super blurry and the flower is very clear. So that might be a good option. And same with this picture of the flower with a bee and this picture with the flower. It's just a lot of very distinct from the other flowers. Okay, so I might go with maybe like one of these. flower ones for the foreground. And as I said with the background, I think I like that picture with a bee. This one's also good because I have stuff in the foreground, but it's not as important as the stuff that's in the background. And I feel like the foreground and the background kind of complement each other and it kind of frames it. And it's also good rule of thirds. So it's just overall a decent image. So yeah, so that's kind of how I'm going to choose my photos. So once I've chosen my photos, I'm going to make sure that I've downloaded those photos onto my computer. So I'll go ahead and I think I'll take this one and download it. I'll take this one too, just in case, and download it. This one and download it. So you notice where the download button is. I think I'm going to use this one. Download that one. All right, so now I've done the selection. I'm going to do one of the squirrel ones because it's real cute. No, I'll do this one. All right. So now I've done the selection and I'm going to show you the next steps on Pixlr. I have my image and I've opened it in Pixlr. Remember, you needed to have downloaded the picture. And then when you go to home on Pixlr X, you're going to go ahead and open the image and select the image. Now I'm in the editing portion. I'm going to show you the expectation of what to do and also just introduce you to the idea of using layers. And I'm going to show one advanced technique that you can do if you'd like to try it. This is not going to be a requirement once the next step of selective color. It's not going to be a requirement. So I'm going to just show you the first basic thing. The first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and crop your image. So for me, I see that this is an image that has a frame. I want the frame to be centered because I think a symmetrical frame it's going to really have more of a cool effect for this shot. So I'm going to go ahead and crop it. So I use the crop tool over here. Okay. Now, one thing when I'm thinking about cropping it, I need to think about the rule of thirds. And the nice thing is that the rule of thirds will pop up right as I am cropping it. Okay. So as I crop it down, okay, so you can see that my little yellow, sign there, the little light Mario box, is nice and clear. I personally want to make sure that this part here and this part here are well in the range of the crop here. All right. Once I have it correctly cropped, I press apply. Now, the reason that we're using Pixlr, and I'll also show you on Photopea, is because it has the option of using layers. Okay. So down here, oops, is a layer type. So see how it says add a layer, and we're going to make this layer empty. Okay. So for now, we're just having that layer empty. And what I'm going to also do is go Control C and Control V. Oops, that's not right. duplicate layer. Okay, so if you click on that, the 3 dots, you'll be able to duplicate the layer. Okay, you're gonna want to duplicate the layers because it's very important to do this because this helps you see, and we'll get rid of that one. Okay, so you should end up with 2 copies. So let me show you again. You go over to the right side where duplicate layer, or where the layers are. You click on the little thing, and then there's that little one that has the rectangles. You press duplicate layer. Okay, you're going to want to have both because what we're going to do is we're going to edit this one and we're going to leave this one be. And that way we'll be able to tell the differences and really see if we've improved our photo. So, of course, what we're going to do first is we're going to do some adjustments. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and play around with some of the, and we're just doing this to one layer. So this is nice. So we can see, I might want to bring the saturation up because there's a lot of color in it. I want to maybe bring this temperature down. Yeah. For light, this is where I want to be most of the time here. Okay, I'm going to want to make my whites whiter, my shadows darker, bring my highlights, probably because there's so many highlights because it's a light source, I'm going to bring my highlights down a lot. And I'm going to bring my blacks up a little bit more. I want that contrast up and the exposure up just a little. Okay, so when I toggle between these, I can see the difference that I've made. I maybe make it too much. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to here. I'm going to bring my highlights back up again. And I think that did it. All right, I think I like that. I don't want it to be too intense. I want the blacks to be just a little bit stronger. Just a little. Okay. No, I don't want to mess with curves. All right. So I've edited my photo. I have cropped my photo, and it looks pretty decent. Okay. So this is all I would need to do if I wanted to save it and download it. That's all you would need to do for your photos. Okay. Save it as a JPEG. So when you save it, it says JPEG, or you can save it as a PNG. Okay. You might want to call it framing and then put your initials. Okay. I also always recommend once you're done with, once you've got it downloaded, go back to your folder. And you can do it just in here. And so say, you can make a new folder and say edited photos. And then I would upload that. So go file, upload. All right. So that's as far as the steps as you would need in order to, that's the non-challenge. Okay. I would suggest doing the non-challenge for at least 4 of your photos and then maybe trying the challenge, which I'm going to go ahead and show you next. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next and more advanced step and a fun thing to do, which is selective color. Um, for this, you are going to be needing to use layers. So, as I talked about previously, you have the layers over here. And the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create a layer and desaturate the colors or turn it black and white. So you go to Layers, Duplicate Layer, and I have this layer that I had already edited for color duplicated. Now I'm going to go over to Adjust, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it black and white. I'm going to hit Apply. So now you can see over here that it's black and white, and the thing underneath is colorful. Now I'm going to very carefully erase the spots that I want color to show through. So I'm going over to the brush tool. It's down here and it looks like a little brush. And I'm going to the eraser tool. I need to make sure that my eraser tool is not super large and not super small. I'm going to go ahead and get close to my image. I want to be selective of choosing the color on the question mark box and not on my hand. So see how I'm need to be a little more careful with that. What I might end up doing once I've kind of got this selected, okay, I might make the size a little bit bigger so that way I can get through it a little faster, okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean up these areas. Oops. Better for this way. I'm used to showing you this in Photoshop, and there's a much cooler tool to do it in Photoshop, which I will show you another time. Okay, so I just have to be careful. I'll just color in the basic space. And then I'm going to make the size a little bit smaller. And be super selective about that color. It's definitely hard to do on a trackpad if you have a stylus. It's really useful. You want to make sure that you're getting every little section. And this is the easiest, honestly, the easiest way to do it. There's a couple other ways, but they just have a few, like there's a lot of mistakes you can make. So this is like the easiest way to do it, even if it's a little time consuming. Make sure to pause so that your computer can catch up, because it takes a little bit of effort to run this program. Come on. Go up. Again, this is something I would only expect you to do to one photo. And even that, for some of you, that's not going to happen right now. This is okay. That's why this is the challenge. I need to get really close to actually get good results. All right. Now I'm going to also do the color around here. I'm going to make the softness a lot more. Going to make sure once I'm getting close to my hand. Oops. Make it even smaller. Oops, that's a little too small. That's good. So you can tell that this is going to be more of a work of art. This is the one that I really like the picture of. Okay. This is the one that I'm having more fun with. I'm making it playful and fun. So I would never suggest that you do this with every single picture you own or you do, because that's a lot. But it's fun to do this every once in a while. All right. So there we go. Now I have a image that has all of those colors. So when I press save, and download it, now my image is downloaded here. I'll make sure I upload it to here. And now I have that one done as well. So there we go. That's just a fun next step. Again, absolutely not required. This is just a fun thing to do. If you feel like you've got all your other 5 photos edited, you can have fun with doing color framing.